opponents of New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani are criticizing him for posting a photo with Imam Siraj Wahhaj.
In his ex-post, Mamdani wrote in part, "I had the pleasure of meeting with Imam Wahhaj, one of the nation's foremost Muslim leaders and a pillar of the Bed-Stuy community for nearly half a century."
However, the New York Post was quick to point out that the 75-year-old Imam heads the Muslim Alliance in North America, and how prosecutors labeled him as an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombings. He has also reportedly dubbed the FBI and CIA, quote, the real terrorists. Post also reports that he delivered a sermon in the early aughts calling for an army of 10,000 men to wage what he insisted was a gun-free jihad on New York City. "I pray one day Allah will bless us to raise an army," he reportedly said in the sermon. "Don't pick up a gun, no, just march through the city of New York. Let them hear your voice, let them hear it at night, let them hear it 24 hours until the whole city can't sleep."
For his part, Wahhaj has previously denied any connection to terrorism and, importantly, was never charged. Despite that, Republicans on the national level were quick to criticize Mamdani for the photo.
Vice President J.D. Vance wrote on X, "I've been reliably informed that Democrats are opposed to any kind of political violence, so I look forward to them universally condemning Zohran Mamdani for campaigning with an unindicted co-conspirator in a terrorist plot that killed 6 New Yorkers." And then, meanwhile, Mamdani's closest rival for mayor, Andrew Cuomo, has seized on this opportunity to perhaps close the double-digit polling gap, focusing his attacks on the Imam's stance on homosexuality. Cuomo said during a press conference, quote, "For Zohran to think he should be mayor of New York, the capital of acceptance and tolerance and diversity, the city and the state where the gay rights movement was birthed, the place that made history in passing same-sex marriage, the disconnect is so disturbing."
Despite all of those attacks, Mamdani's campaign doesn't seem to be concerned. A spokesperson for that campaign told The Times, quote, "What we're seeing from Andrew Cuomo isn't a concern, it's the desperation of someone who's run out of ideas and mistakes cynicism for strategy." I think I would agree with the Mamdani spokesperson there. I think Andrew Cuomo is trying to throw anything he can to reel in this fairly significant polling lead that Mamdani has. In relation to the Imam, I think that attack is really pretty thin. First of all, unindicted co-conspirator, I mean, that doesn't really mean anything very much. There is, in relation to that particular case, there were criticisms long preceding this about the fact that there were dozens of unindicted co-conspirators, and even some people with a history of being prosecutors thought that was overly broad. Things like the Imam's army, I mean, that seems to me very clearly a call for people to protest peacefully, don't bring arms, raise your voice, come together as a group. That seems to me well within the bounds of legitimate political protest. And as it pertains to Mamdani, it's part of this context where he is in the running to become the first Muslim mayor of New York City. And some of the attacks he's received are very unfair. I mean, there was a famous example where some group affiliated or aligned with Cuomo produced this draft mailer where they had artificially lengthened Mamdani's beard, and the idea was that they were trying to cast him as more sort of the scary Muslim guy. So you may have different views, but I find these attacks pretty hollow and unpersuasive.
Yeah, I am not a fan of Zohran Mamdani.
Not rallying to the democratic socialist standard?
But it's the socialism that bothers me, not the Islam. Although I do, sometimes it goes into, it's a little too precious to me that we can't criticize. Islam is a belief system.
Right.
Those beliefs can be criticized, including those beliefs about homosexuality or anything else can be criticized, just as Christian pastors come under criticism for when Republicans are arm in arm with people who think conversion therapy is a good idea, and they get criticized for that. So I don't know why you wouldn't be able to criticize this person for that. Now, I'm not really one to care all that much about that. So, and I agree with you on the marching and using voices was clearly not a call for violence whatsoever, so I'm not sure what they're talking about. His potential or lack of or whatever the connection was to the terrorism attack, I simply don't know anything about, so I can't express any kind of opinion on it. I think Cuomo's pretty dead in the water and deservedly so. So not, so sure what else to say about that. I think Mamdani is concerning to a lot of people because of the extremeness of his economic agenda, and perhaps to a lot of others because he is a Muslim man, and New York was famously attacked by Muslim extremists. There are thousands and millions of Muslims who are not extremists and don't wish violence on anyone. So fine, I don't really care about that. I'm not someone to say like, oh, this is Sharia law coming to America, but I don't know. It is ownership of the means of production coming to a city near you. I don't know. It's still not good to me.
Well, I mean, in relation to the socialist element of it, obviously I have more sympathy with those views than you do, but I accept that any kind of political view is open to criticism. Now, he's leading in the polls by quite a margin. I think that speaks to a public desire, at least in New York, for a more affordable city, for some of the measures that he's talking about, the free bus rides and so forth, obviously do have an appeal to people. People think that the city has become unaffordable unless you're very rich, and they want to see that changed, and he seems to be the vehicle for that hope. I do agree with you that no religion should be immune to criticism. One's religion is not an immutable characteristic.
It's not ethnicity.
It's not ethnicity, right. So
we shouldn't attack Arab American people for but Islam is a chosen belief system, the same way Christianity is, the same way republicanism and being a Democrat are.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I think that there are valid, people should feel free to disagree with someone's religious views. Right. What I don't like is it tipping into the stuff where views are ascribed to Mamdani. I mean, Elise Stefanik described him as a jihadist, for example. I mean, that is ascribing views to him that he doesn't particularly hold, and using the most extreme adherents of his religion to try to erode his political chances. I don't think that's good. I think there are clearly online commentary about him that is plainly based in a sort of religious bigotry, which that's a different thing from criticising specific tenets of any particular belief system. On the point briefly about religion and criticism, Cuomo raised the issue of this imam's views on homosexuality, but the Times pointed out that Cuomo himself accepted the endorsement of a Christian pastor, I think the guy's in Brooklyn somewhere, Ruben Diaz Sr., who has himself been opposed to same-sex marriage and has made what the Times characterised as homophobic statements. I couldn't find the direct quote as to what they were characterising that way. But again, getting back to this point of Andrew Cuomo kind of throwing the kitchen sink at Mamdani.
Yeah, I mean, Mamdani did tweet, that was, I just remember it because it was one of the abolish the police tweet. We have to abolish the police for queer justice.
Right, okay.
There's a little hypocrisy there. I mean, it was just a stupid thing to say, honestly.
I mean...
That he said over and over again. It was like 20 tweets about abolishing the police. Doesn't tweet that anymore.
Well, he doesn't believe in abolishing the police anymore, Robbie. He has amended that belief slightly.
Does he not believe that anymore?
No.
That remains to be seen if he doesn't believe it or if he's just keeping that one. I don't actually think he secretly harbors Islamic extremist views. I think he does secretly harbor abolish the police views, which I think are also bad and extreme. But maybe he's had a sincere change of heart, Niall.
Well, maybe he has moderated slightly, or maybe he does accept that it is not a feasible thing to do when and if he's elected mayor. I do think, just briefly on the policing topic, there's been a lot of coverage from the New York Post, which is a fairly clearly right-leaning paper, about how, cops are going to resign immediately if he's elected, or they're going to leave the city or whatever. I take that with several grains of salt. People are pretty happy to keep their jobs usually, and pretty disinclined to storm off just because they disagree with a mayor. I mean, de Blasio and the police had a very fractious relationship, but the city did not collapse into disorder during the Blas morality.
Well, we'll see when there's someone just as liberal as de Blasio, and then, I mean, he's within the de Blasio. Well, he holds up de Blasio.
His favourite New York mayor.
His favorite,
I think the Guardia is his favourite ever, but
favorite in his
lifetime. In his lifetime, yeah, absolutely.
Next up, Trump nominee Paul Ingrassia has been accused of sending inflammatory text messages in a group chat with fellow Republicans. We'll be back with a look at those messages and reactions from lawmakers who say his nomination should be withdrawn.